dive into warrants, I want to remind the board as chair of what I expect out of each and every one of us for behavior and conduct moving forward in the next few weeks before town meeting day. We had a special meeting last week that was attended by the city's mayor and 2 city councilors. We had 5 select people at the start of the meeting, and about 15 minutes later we were down to 3.
I think it was in the paper. I think they all know about it.
I don't yield time to you.
Okay, good.
Very tough meeting.
We have to remember that our actions have unintended consequences. Somebody statewide could have picked that up and turned it into a town versus city article. And it could have sent a shockwave through Vermont, reversing all the progress that we've made this year. So in the future, I want us to be civil with one another and remember what we owe to the people who put us in these seats and make sure that we stay in them through the duration of our meetings and represent them with care. That said, let's move on to warrants. Stanley, or the general fund?
I'd like to say something too. In hindsight, my actions Wednesday, I had other options. And in the future, I will use those options. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the same thing. It probably wasn't the best thing to do, but due to certain circumstances and information that's been used against me in the past and information that's been distorted, I was not in the right frame of mind to stay here, so I thought it was best to leave.
You're the general fund warrant?
Okay, you want to start with those?
Yep, please.
All right. The general fund warrants, 1/21/2020, 109 invoices, total $249,739.58. MS4 being the largest, $142,750. Since we own the road, we had to pay both shares, the homeowners association share and ours. So that was 50%. We should have some money coming back from a grant, block grant. The next one was St. Albans Police Department, $27,625. Blue Cross Blue Shield, $15,006. Cargill Road Salt, $13,646. Amcare, $12,071. St. Albans City Rec, $7,668. This comes to $218,766, which is 88% of our invoices. I make a motion, unless there's any questions, to approve this warrant for $49,739.58.
I'll second it.
So, I have a thumbnail explanation of this MS4 expenditure.
Yeah, absolutely. Which road were you talking about, Stan?
It was the industrial park way at the end. So the other ones we paid 25% of the cost, Bill. State pays 50, homeowners pay 25, but this one, since we own the road, we had to pay the full percentage.
It was one of the upgrades required for our permit.
Anything else?
Any further questions at all? Take somebody's second, Stan's motion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Al, you have some miscellaneous warrants?
Yes, I have a warrant correction from January 6, 2020. I'm moving that we correct the previous warrant of $5,225 and amend it to $15,225. And this was for the purchase of disposable emergency products for the fire department, invoice number 1713. The second part of this motion is to also have a warrant correction from January 6, 2020 to amend that warrant from $115,000 to $105,000 taken from the capital reserve account. So I move that these two motions of correction be approved.
I'll second it.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye. The next warrant I have is for the industrial park account in the amount of $563.40, and it was for GMP services to the road light, the sign light, and the sewage pump.
Can you approve that?
Yes, please.
Approve it. Second.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And the third warrant we have is for the infrastructure development account in the amount of $175,627.31. And it's for a host of invoices for the garage. Move to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
That's it.
Jessica, you have payroll?
Okay, I have two payroll warrants. The first is January 10th, 2020 for $20,654.32. The second is January 17th, 2020 for $19,677.17. I'll make a motion to approve the payroll warrants.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to minutes. So we have the minutes of our Monday, January 6th, 2020 meeting. I have no corrections, do you?
No, I don't. It was fine. I move it be approved as approved.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Oh, sorry, I need a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sorry about that. All right, so those are all the minutes we had in front of us. Now we're on to agenda item number 4, which is the proposed agreement for shared ownership of Hardak and a new community pool, specifically the proposed letter of intent that was the subject of Wednesday's special meeting last week, the 15th. We have the letter, drafted it with supporting documents. Wondering if anybody would like to discuss that and entertain any kind of a motion to either accept or reject. Now,
Did we figure out how we were paying for this?
local option tax. We discussed that at our budget meeting Thursday. We did. We talked about taking that capital improvement plan, removing the equipment for the fire department and Public Works Department, and
But
then,
that was like 125,000.
and then when you add in the Department of Public Works, it was more than that.
So we only did one for Public Works. Only one I saw on the ballot was for one truck, right?
There's one DPW plow truck and one the fire department reserve article. Separate.
Yeah, they're just those two.
That's correct.
Will they cover, and the reason I'm asking because I looked at the plan rollout for, was given to us on 1/16, the day after
Yeah,
the meeting,
budget meeting.
and I didn't see any
You're
city
talking about that long,
pool.
that
Yeah,
longer sheet?
yeah,
See, on that, as part of that plan, it had all future public works and fire department. So that was why we were
that's still on there, right?
we removed that.
It's still on that one list, I believe.
Right, because we made the decision at that meeting. That's an old document.
That's a day, that's a day old.
Right, but.
So, we're gonna go in debt by that document. 3.5 million for a town hall and 2.75 for a pool.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the math adds up to.
Right, but see, I didn't see a bottom line number, how much we would have left. And I'm really concerned if we're gonna spend that $850,000 we think we have coming in. That could change It could change this November, if the election goes left or right.
If you don't mind.
I don't plan, never did I plan to spend that much money out of that.
Bill, you have a question?
Since this is somewhat new to me, this agreement,
Mhm.
can you give us a thumbnail, major points, what's in the agreement, what's being suggested?
So, this is all predicated on the voters approving our half of the bond for this new pool. Nothing is committed until then.
Yeah, but the question is.
Right, what are we committing to?
What did you
Right.
guys negotiate? That's the
Right,
question.
so, the deal as it's written, Stan, can I borrow your copy, your paper copy?
Do what?
Can I borrow your paper copy? Thank you.
There's a bunch of, go right ahead.
So, I'm gonna read you some broad points, if that's okay, Bill?
Okay.
For everybody else in the room too. So, line item number 1 of this letter of intent, proposed letter of intent that hasn't been signed by the city or town yet. Number 1, the city will deed to the town an undivided 50% interest in the land deeded to the city by Hardak Inc. by warranty deed dated April 11, 2018. In other terms, we would become a 50% owner of the entire Hardak property were this to pass. Instead of just having a condo lot underneath the pool or no ownership whatsoever. The parties agree that the total construction cost, hard and soft cost, meaning actual construction and then engineering and permitting, shall not exceed $5.5 million total. We'll split that 50-50, $2.75 million each. Then you have, obviously each party shall request voter approval for their project at their respective March 2020 municipal meetings, all subject to voter approval. The city will manage the construction of the pool, and then once constructed, the city's recreation department would manage day-to-day operations and the fee schedule. We agreed as part of this, and again, it's all subject to voter approval and hasn't been signed, but we agreed that as co-owners of the property, we would agree to be responsible for 50% of the cost of liability insurance for the pool and the rest of Hardak. And we got an opinion from VLCT, who carries the town's and city's insurance on that piece, to which they said, setting liability insurance rates for municipalities is a totally different ballgame than insuring, say, a plumbing contractor or a home builder. They said that at a face value, it's a very minimal cost until you have multiple claims, was basically the way I read that. Is that a fair characteristic? So that was the answer we got on that in the meantime. The city agrees that the rates set for usage of the community pool and other facilities at the Hardak Recreation Area shall be the same for city and town residents. Sorry about that. This is all subject to approval of this letter of intent by the parties' respective city council and select board, consent to conveyance of a 50% undivided interest to the town by the trustees of Hardak Inc. as required by statute and/or the city charter, and their agreement that they hold with the city. We had representatives, multiple representatives from the Hardak board at that meeting last Wednesday, and they indicated that they had met, and out of the 7 of them on that board, they received unanimous support for this proposal. Approval by the voters of each party for the required bond, just in case that wasn't made clear earlier in the document. And then we have to execute a mutually agreeable joint municipal contract, because this letter is obviously too vague to move forward. So that's the broad strokes. I'd be happy to get anybody a copy of this. It is a public document.
It's pretty much what's in the paper.
Right.
I have one question on this. I'm going to have some other questions later, if I may. My first question is, it's my understanding that Hardak Corporation or the Hardak trustees do not have any interest in the ownership of the land, that the land is 100% owned by the city.
Correct.
You know, in that case, I wonder, what is the role of Hardak in this whole thing? They've come up several times in
There's a
the article. Are they a party to it, or they have
Well, they
no
have
interest?
They have a pretty unique agreement between themselves and the city that precipitated the deed of the land, and it basically
So they-
gives the Hardak Corporation, if you will, a governance capacity of the whole area. So this,
I would not be.
Well, let me just clarify. Under that agreement, they have reserved certain rights. One of them being to build the Brown Lodge. The second is to have the ability to put a ice skating ring on the property. Is there
Anything else?
I mean,
Because now we have an encumbrance on our deeds.
well,
Yep.
yeah, I mean,
I
it's,
guess, so we know what we're getting into.
right, we would be essentially, as I understand it, where their agreement says the city or city council, that would be essentially turned into this newly proposed, and as part of this document, it's called the St. Albans Recreation Commission, which would be comprised of equal appointees from the city and town, and they would work with the Hardak Board to oversee its governance.
Since you mentioned this commission, I was going to save this question till later, but I'll ask it now. I don't expect a definitive answer. Have you given thought to setting up or forming some kind of a recreation district where the city and the town would be equal owners in this corporation, the city and town taxpayers? That would have a whole different legal structure, different obligations back and forth. That's one thing. And implicit in the question is also, it could expand the total concept of city-town recreation possibilities to include Barlow Street, to include Navy, Collins, Pearlie, I don't know. But, think in a broader sense,
Right.
and set a structure in place which would allow you to do things. And,
Beyond Hardak,
Hardak would be one piece of it.
right?
And that would also be a buffer for liability for you too, by the way. But something to think about.
But yeah, I had always thought that we would get to that next step of thinking when we started to draw up a mutually agreeable joint
Well,
municipal.
I just throw it out to you now.
Right, no, that's
Keep it
definitely worth entertaining. Al?
And to that point, Bill, there has been some discussion, municipalities have the opportunity to set up enterprise funds. And so there was a very brief discussion about the possibility of using the enterprise fund law to incorporate the operations of the Hardak area that's jointly owned.
But as long as it has the same effect, I mean, this is not, I don't mean to be a debate, just
Right,
throwing an
just trying to
idea out
fill you
here to
in.
think about.
On what thought has occurred, already had occurred.
And at the back of my mind, I also things like a fire district and whatnot, so, okay.
Right,
It's a good thought, Bill.
no, very. Does the public have any comment or question beyond Mitch?
On the Hardak one, on the Hardak board, I think you're gonna have a problem with that. Because how can you ask for public money and have just a certain group decide where it's gonna be doled out? To me, you gotta get away with.
Are you
You're gonna
talking
do
about
it,
the
that's
bond
gonna be
money or money in the
Well, look, you
future?
got the bond money, you got the maintenance, you got whatever else you have. If they have any more authority than the rest of the town people, I don't think it's right.
See, they wouldn't have any role in the day-to-day maintenance of Hardak.
No, but they wouldn't say, I want to build a skating rink, I want the skating rink this big, I want to build this, I want it that big. But
Well,
they're
where they're-
asking for everybody's money.
Right, well, per their agreement with the city, they have a permitted skating rink that's already defined, and they reserve the right to deed that property to SASA. I think that's the way that the agreement reads.
I'm sorry, if you want?
They reserve the right to take an already permitted area for a new skating rink and execute a build-out for SASA.
Again, another encumbrance, an exclusive use by SASA, not the community?
It's the
Yeah, I
same
don't know.
thing,
These are questions
it's
you have to
another
ask yourself.
public, I mean, what if the bingo ladies from Holy Angels would like to have some money? I mean, you're taking public money and just having a certain group have a say in it.
Well, you'd have I can see what you're saying. I would counter with, you'd have a newly formed commission, and the city's rec department would work to oversee the day-to-day operations, the fee schedule, the management of the collected fees. I see the Hardak board as more of an overall governance piece. It's not, I don't foresee them diving into the day-to-day operations. If anything, they fundraise, and they help set visions and goals, and they help ascertain.
I'd be afraid some of these loose ends could make things unravel later. But forewarned is forearmed.
Fair enough. Al?
I serve on the Epicenter Committee with Ms.
Pardon
Brown.
me?
I serve on the Epicenter Committee with Bruce.
That may be a problem, I don't know.
The structure, as I understand it, is that when Hardak sold its property to the city, Hardak became an advisory board to the city manager and the Board of Aldermen. And the Epicenter Center was to Epicenter, I think, Bill, was to investigate options that people wanted to put there, one of them being the skating rink. All the Epicenter is to recommend to the Hardak board, who then agree or disagree with that recommendation, and then advocate or against it, for or against it, with the town manager and the city manager and the Board of Aldermen, under the present circumstances. So the final authority is basically the Board of Aldermen.
Well, that's not equal with the board.
Well, we haven't gotten to a
Well, I
contract
wouldn't-
yet.
You see what I mean?
Well, we haven't gotten to a contract.
Real quick, I don't want to be a pessimist,
No,
but
go
first
ahead.
you'd have the Hardak board. Let's say they wanted to build a skating rink 10 times bigger than we wanted, and we didn't even want it that big. First you'd have the Hardak board saying what it'd be, then the city would either rubber stamp it or go in with them, and then we'd have to pay whatever they wanted.
No, under
Well-
this agreement, we would form a mutual recreation committee of equal appointees, and they would essentially take the place of how the city has this agreement set up now. So there would be a new commission with equal town representation that would essentially take over for the city manager. and the
Commissions are operational, and they can't commit finances.
So, like Al said, we're on the Hardak board, and Epicenter board, and right now, the emphasis is putting the ice skating rink at Collins Pearly. That's where the emphasis is on this rink right now.
But indirectly, directly, you have two commitments to the Hardak board. One is the round house, and the other is a skating rink. Where the skating rink is, who knows? The round house will definitely be at the
Well, they have
Hardak
it's
side,
a
I would
permitted
believe.
site, it's on a site plan.
Okay, fair enough.
But they put a great deal of time and energy into the ice skating rink and thinking about it. No, just let me finish. And that is a very big financial commitment that they realized at our last meeting that they may not be able to accomplish.
I think my point in asking the questions perhaps, Mitch, is we want to know what other bells and whistles are there, what little things are there, just so everybody's aware that, you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
something
well,
about to
there's-
bite you later. That's
You know,
it.
Hardak, you know, there's lots of plans for Hardak. You know, they're talking about putting in a soccer field, you know, and stuff like that. It's all beneficial to the community, there's no doubt about that.
Which is why
But
I like-
everything comes
that's why
with a
I like to
cost.
see a district.
That commitment comes with a
Anyways,
cost.
Go
So
ahead.
if it goes further and there is a hockey rink, who's financially responsible to pay for the building of that hockey rink? Are we financially responsible to build everything that Hardak Association decides they want to build?
No?
In the case of the hockey rink, discussion is always focused on Sasha.
Well, I'd like to see how that's written up, because if we're part owners, and they're gonna put up another building,
Well, that's what I'm
we
looking at. I'm
don't
looking
have to
at,
put a penny in it, and we're still half owners?
this whole issue is about the pool. We're about the pool and about building the pool, and as a bonus to, you know, basically giving the city, you know, they need us, and by us choosing to go in with them, we've asked for the 50% ownership. That's the bonus to us. So with that as the bonus, what is the additional responsibility? What is the additional cost responsibility?
Right now, on paper, the only thing that we've defined is 50% of liability insurance.
So we're only with the pool. It's just pool financial responsibility right now?
That's all we've outlined in this letter. David?
Yeah, when I was here for that meeting with the mayor, and I asked, you know, what was the cost estimate to repair the one they had now? The figure that they came up was $2 million in reference to repairing that. I'd like to see a proposal from the city where if it's $2 million, how it's broken down, because that is a good pool, it's a good location. The problem having it put up to Hardak is the fact that a lot of kids won't be able to go up there. They're gonna have a bus to transport them up there. So I'd like to see that the city would come up with a proposal in writing, what it costs to repair that swimming pool, And if it's $1 million, then get the city and town to put it on the ballot and repair that pool. The second thing that bothers me is that in reference to the budget, there's no proposed budget. It's just the city and town is going to have to pay 50-50 on it. You also have to look at that. That's going to affect the tax rate in the town of St. Albans. So that's my only
The
two.
proposal is to allow the local option tax to pay for it, to make the bond
For
payments.
the bond, what about the maintenance, the labor, the chemicals, the electricity?
That would be figured into their user fees
Well, I'd still like to see a proposed budget
for
for the running of that new
existing
pool, if, you know, so that the taxpayers know what they're getting into.
Like I said, I'm not opposed to this, I mean, really, because anything that'll benefit the town and the city, bring the relationship a little bit closer together. But the bottom line is, there is a financial commitment. And I fear obligating the sales tax money to too many projects, because it happened in Winooski and it happened in Williston, where they bonded everything based on their 1% sales tax. We went into a recession and they ended up having to look for money to pay bonds off.
Well, let me do a little math. So we're proposing as part of this capital.
I'd like to talk
improvement plan.
specifically about LOT, but maybe now is not the
Just,
moment.
yeah, I'm gonna get into that right here.
All right.
So we're proposing $250,000 a year for 10 years for a new town hall. Maybe beyond that, maybe 15 years.
250,000 for 10 years for a new
10
town
to
hall?
15 years for a new or improved town hall, and that's, we'll get into the discussion on new or
Alright.
improved later. So 250,000 a year is what the planning commission helped us reach for a yearly number of local option tax money. This bond payment, as it's been estimated, is anywhere between $170,000 to $190,000 per year for a period of 20 to 25 years. So let's call it an even 200. So that's 450. We are receiving revenues of upwards of 850,000. So I don't think we're being irresponsible in making commitments of a little over 50% of our overall revenue. I mean, we should be able to leverage our income streams to benefit ourselves.
Well,
That's what people
whatever you do, even if you don't raise the local option money to cover what you're planning, it's the good faith and financial stability of the town that's going to be put on the line to pay for that stuff. But I have a more serious concern about the LOT.
Okay.
When that was passed, it was specifically intended for use to invest in infrastructure. And at the time, we gave some ideas about infrastructure. And we also said it was not going to go into the town general fund, and it would not be spent on anything without the specific authorization of the voters.
Right.
Now, I know the motion that passed, that they voted on after two times, was the funds were going to be limited to infrastructure. And the things we had on that list were, first of all, the town garage, and we still have the salt shed to finish with that. That's another expenditure down the road. The second thing on that list was the renovation or relocation of the town hall itself.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of the town garage, we accumulated funds before we took the dive. And we didn't commit until we had the funds in our pockets. I'm not concerned about committing monies, but I'm pretty confident in the LOT. But I'm concerned about diverting funds away from the intention. We also said in this room, when people asked us, things like the capital budget for fire trucks and so on would go in the normal operating expenditure year to year that you vote on with our town budget, and not part of the LOT. We were very specific about that.
We've abandoned that thought.
Yeah, you've abandoned that, but this is what we told the taxpayers. And I don't think we should be, this is somewhat disingenuous. You're trying to do an end run around it.
Well, if we ever did anything, they would have the final say.
Well, and even at that time, we also said when we get rid of the big projects, and we have a lot of money left over, maybe we'd give it back in our taxes as we do each year, $120,000 a year. Now, other things you haven't thought about. You're looking at a town center down here.
Right.
When and if that happens, you're going to need a hell of a lot of money to invest here. For example, you may need power upgrades, you certainly will need water, you'll certainly need sewer, you may need roads. All of this is going to cost a lot of money. And we should be putting some money away for this.
So can you
For
just
those
pause for a
things.
minute, Bill? So some of these things are being made as statements, and they're not all together factual. I mean, I was
Oh,
also
whoa,
here.
whoa, 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 you
so-
can go back to the old minutes and find out how factual
All
that
right,
is.
all right.
That's
No,
fine, but I also,
Yeah.
I mean, we have to keep time if we're gonna
Bruce is
have
here
this
with
many
me.
people. So
Bruce was there at the time.
I guess
Sure.
I refrain from debating some of those statements.
I hear your
But
point,
if
Bill,
everyone
and I
wants to
counter
speak.
that the voters will always have the final say no matter what.
Yeah, but bear in mind what we told the voters. and-
Right.
And I don't
But, I
lie to
mean,
vote,
things-
like lying to voters.
Communities change over
Anyway,
time.
I don't disagree with that.
Right.
And we have been traditionally a rather conservative board.
Paul?
Yeah, you know my feelings on that, and I agree with Bill on this 100%, and Bill's correct about the way this came down. That money is for infrastructure and infrastructure only. It is not to be mingled with the general fund. And the fire trucks and all the non-infrastructure items were set up, there were reserves set up for those to keep the taxes
We
down.
heeded your word on that one.
Okay,
We
but
removed that from
it's a very important here, and the other thing that Bill has mentioned, and we already talked about, is, yeah, you probably should wait 5 years and save the money and then give it to them. But financing that thing for 15 or 20 years is nonsense. If you want to finance it for 5 years and pay it off, then you're going to have some money available. But what you've done, and if by doing anything other than paying it for cash as fast as you can, or paying it in cash, ultimately is going to hinder this town. It's going to put us over the barrel somewhere down the line, because we do have a lot of things in front of us. This is a good idea. Everything that you guys have pulled together looks good. It really is a good deal. If we're going to be involved in recreation, and the commission is obviously or district is obviously the right way to go in the end. I mentioned school, put it to the school in the end, all recreation.
Right.
But the end result is, don't mess with this, because the end result is you'll put the taxpayers over the barrel, because the money does run out.
Yeah.
It's not a gift that's going to keep on giving. We can hope so. We can be grateful if it does, but we can't spend it like it's going to. We've got to spend it when we have it, or at least keep the amount that we finance within means. This is what we sold to the taxpayers, what, 5 years ago now? Something like
A
that.
little longer, yeah.
Well, to 2014,
14.
yeah. So 5 years ago. So
We hear you. Yeah.
I'll make 2 quick points and then keep quiet.
Okay.
First one is, I ask that you instruct Carrie to go back and check those minutes as to what was said here. Go listen to the damn tapes and you'll see what we said. And that's fact. Secondly, a couple of questions for you. You mentioned that the total cost was maxed out at 5.5 billion. What happens if it goes over? Think about it. Now, the second question I have is, we're going along and it's all love and kisses and everything's fine, and then suddenly somebody's nose gets out of joint and saying, this is not working, let's get the hell out of this thing. Silly question, you don't want to ask this before you sign an agreement, but it's quite often.
Well, that would be defined in this mutually agreeable.
Well, if you had to dissolve the thing, how would that work out?
We'd have to define that.
Yeah, it's something to think about.
Definitely.
Yeah,
So,
okay, that's it for me, unless you say
Chief.
something outrageous.
So, Brendan, I just want to go with one thing here. I know this town of St. Albans and the select boards have always been very cautious in the past on what they do with their money and how they spend their money and what they do with properties that they inherit. The city got this land supposedly sold to them by the Hard Act Association or trustees, 6 months ago?
no,
Maybe a little bit longer than that, but ever since they got it, they hit the ground running. And I mean, they're putting up a new building, and they really pushed fast to start this building, and now they're pushing fast to do this pool. We've always sat down and thought about a plan. If we were going to be a part of something, the select board has always taken their time, stepped back, and said, "Hey, wait a minute, we're moving a little too fast here. Let's spend the town's money, cautiously."
yeah, I just point that the new Greg Brown Lodge was constructed largely with donated money from Greg Brown's family and the family of A.J. Holschneider.
But again, they hit the ground running.
On this project for years.
For years, it's been longer than that, Bobby.
For years.
I can tell you that in 2015, I saw a plan for something a lot smaller than what's being put up now in 2015. So yeah, it has been in for a long time. And the building has changed dramatically since the first set of plans that I saw.
Well, there's no doubt that they've been back and forth on the design until they agreed on the final design. But it is under construction now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also getting a lot more donations from other people, so it's expanded a bit more than.
So financially, it's
It's
self-financing.
self-sufficient. You'd be surprised what people are donating. It's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, it's
Great.
wonderful.
Thank you, Jeff.
Well, what I don't like about it is I hate to see us get back into something we got out from under. We used to have hard act. We used to run it, the town. Way back. We got unloaded it in the 70s or late 70s or early 80s.
Very different time though.
That was a very different time.
Time.
A girl got hurt up there. I can't remember if it was a snowboard or a
Talking
toboggan.
liability risks?
And the town got sued. And the town select board at the time decided they didn't want any more to do with it, and we got rid of it because they didn't want the liability risk.
Again, very different time, but I
Yeah, it's a
understand what
lot
you're
different when you look at just what happened with the city pool. The city police spent 4 months looking for a guy to arrest him for armed robbery.
That is
And they found him under the-
an unfortunate thing that happened, but I mean,
Okay, but that pool's gonna be up there. How much is security gonna cost for 24 hours a day?
I don't know what cameras go for nowadays. I'm not sure.
Cameras?
But I'm gonna move on from that. Al?
You can be sure, no good deed goes unpunished.
I hear you. Al,
I just want to say,
just 1 minute.
we have to have some faith in the future. And when I was born with a significant hearing problem. My parents hadn't had faith that over the years of medical science that I could have been cured, I'd still be deaf. I make the same analogy to, we keep looking to the past, we'll get nowhere. We have to look towards the future. Now, to the issues of money and so forth, my understanding is when the Great Depression occurred, 50% of the stock market did not go down, didn't fall below 50%. There was still income generated, only 30%.
That was before you were born, Al.
That's right, not by a few years though. And I did live through the recovery, part of the recovery. Again, the LOT and the 800,000 we get now, even if it dropped to 400,000, we would more than be able to manage it. And we have reserve funds on top of that because they're still building, not being expended. So I say to the community, you have to have faith in the future. You have to look to what the young people need and what we want to build in a relationship with the city and the town. And this is a major opportunity to step forward. Yes, there's risk, but is the risk well worth it to finally heal the divisions that have occurred over these two municipalities for so long? And I would hope that we would consider empowering the voters to make the final decision and stop the argument here.
Absolutely.
And move to the voters. I will support the pool no matter what. I do believe in the future, I believe in kids, and I believe in elderly. So that's where I am at.
Except for what you were saying, everything's looking forward, but you have to understand the risks and go in with your eyes wide open. And ultimately is the voters.
Right.
I'd like
Sir,
to add.
just
Yep, go
1
ahead.
second, Jessica. Sir, in the back.
I just want to say that, personally, as things sit right now, I'm against you signing this letter of intent. We're January 21st. Town meeting day's not that far away. What's the rush to sign this before we know what the voters do? I'm against using local options tax. That's not what that money was for. I wouldn't have voted for it to use for things like this. And you know, if it's taking money out of the reserve fund for the fire department and public works, I'm definitely against that. That's not what voters want to do with this money. I think we seem to be in a hurry to throw a bunch of money at this project. And you know, I'm looking ahead and thinking, we ought to slow down here. Let's see what the voters think first before we sign any agreements and lock ourselves into something that maybe we can't back out of.
Jay, I hear you, but the agreement's all predicated on voters passing this. If it fails, this means nothing, even if it's signed by both parties.
So if they spend money to widen the road next week, we're not obligated in that?
No, not at all. Not at all. And then 11E, the parties executing a mutually agreeable joint municipal contract. That was added by our attorney, and that was to protect us. If we can't reach an agreement that's satisfactory to the town, even if voters do pass the bond, we may not do it. I mean, the nuts and bolts are to be discussed later. You're right, we do have a short time window. We didn't dictate the schedule to this. It's something that made us maybe feel shorthanded at times, but we're moving forward, and I think that agreement is a big step forward beyond where we were 2 to 3 weeks ago.
This is an agreement to help the people understand what the two municipalities have come to understand as a future for the pool. But it's not, it's still dependent on the voters to approve it, and if both municipalities have to approve it. So there's so many built-in safeguards that I just think we need to move on.
I still don't understand the value of this, Al. Why don't we sign it after the voters approve?
I think because in the original discussions, it was to get us to have a common ballot.
And it was too.
You see, there's lies the problem. We weren't involved in the original discussions, the rest of the board.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? You met with the town.
I did not meet with anybody.
Well, how did you come up with this then?
A 20-minute phone call.
Okay, you can.
You want my phone records, Bruce?
No, I
You
don't
brought
want-
this
I
up
don't want
before.
your
I mean,
phone
you can
records.
take it. Give
All
me
I'm
a
saying-
polygraph, I'll
All
pass
I'm
it.
saying is that we agreed to go before the voters, then we sign a declaration, now we've got a letter of intent, then we get into an agreement, and we haven't heard from the voters yet. I don't care what it says, sugarcoat it any way you want. We said we'd hear from the voters.
And the voters said, we don't have enough information. We don't know about the nuts and bolts. So we decided to put it on paper so that we could begin educating people. And to Bill's extent, maybe it's not far enough. Maybe there are questions that are still left unanswered.
Oh, there's a lot of unanswered questions.
But that agreement, that letter, proposed letter at this point, goes a long way in addressing the concerns of what are you agreeing to? What's the ownership structure?
And keep in mind, we have 3 parks right now. And in this year's budget, it's $220,000 to run those 3 parks.
Jessica, I know you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, so many people in the community have come up to me and said they're thrilled that this is happening, and they love the collaboration, and they think it's such a great amenity for our town. And they're not in this room, unfortunately, but when I look at studies, I made a copy of one. The Federal Reserve Bank of Boston did a study and looked at why all these small towns in New England were folding and struggling. And the one common theme they found between all the thriving small towns is that they were dependent on how well the leaders were willing to collaborate across private business, public, nonprofit sectors around a common long-term vision for the community. So I do think it's time to move forward a little bit and just see, let's put it out to the voters and see what they want to do.
That's the bottom line.
I just don't want to build a town I can't afford to live in.
I'm going to call the question.
Okay, go ahead.
You still have to go forward with your eyes wide open.
Right. No, absolutely. And I fully expect
Call
you
the
to-
question, please move forward.
Sorry. Okay, so.
These
anybody
Al's
have a-
rules of order.
Does anybody have a motion to make on this matter?
To call the question to move to a vote.
Okay. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor in a second. Now technically I can ask for a little bit more discussion.
Okay, what was the motion, bud?
To move to a vote, to stop this discussion, we're not getting anywhere.
So the motion is to, whether or not to authorize, I would say Carrie to sign on behalf of the town. This copy of this letter is intended.
I still think there are too many other questions and answers for you before you can honestly say to go ahead and do this, in my opinion. I'm sure I'm not going to persuade everybody.
I definitely hear your opinion.
I don't think the letter holds any weight, doesn't do anything.
I don't think anybody in this room is against a hockey rink, swimming pool. Everybody wants to have a lot of stuff. But it's like Bill said, the devil's in the details. I mean, we've dealt with that. I mean, I like the city, they're good guys, but you gotta have that You're gonna have your I's dotted and
Well,
your
that's
T's
what-
crossed.
That's definitely why our lawyers put that line item in about having a mutually agreeable joint municipal contract. If we can't reach one, then the whole deal blows up. So that's the fail-safe for that. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion?
And the motion is just to stop debate, and we'll go to authorizing the town manager to sign on behalf of the.
So your motion is to literally just stop talking about this? Okay, and that has a second? Okay, all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
To stop the debate, yeah.
Yes. Okay, so we have a 3 and then abstention?
There's still unanswered questions as far as I'm concerned, so I'm a no.
Okay, so that's 3 to 1. All right, so motion carries. Now,
So I'll move that the town authorize Gary Johnson, the town manager, to sign the letter of intent on behalf of the town.
I'll
okay,
second it.
all right, now, again, I'm gonna ask, any discussion? Looking at you, Stan, you said you had unanswered questions, are there any?
I'm not going to go into them.
Okay, fair enough,
I still have one question you didn't answer.
okay.
With this limit of 5.5 million, how absolute is that? What
According to
happens
that
if you-
document, it is absolute.
Okay, so then my question was, what happens if that's reached? Hopefully it won't be, but what happens if it's reached?
It's a good question.
Well, that should be somehow addressed somewhere.
We'll address it in the, we'll have to address it in the contract, absolutely.
Anywhere.
No, I hear you, we'll have to address that in the contract, it's a good point. I'll make note of it. So, we have a motion with a second, I'm gonna call for a vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
What's that opposed?
2-2, and I'm going to vote I'm gonna vote yay on that. I think we need to move forward with it. So. Alright, so that matter's settled, let's move on
Good.
to, yeah, good. Let's move on to public comment, agenda item number 5. Does anybody have any more to say about anything?
Can I start over? No.
If you do this time, you're coming here and you're not getting up until you
No,
talk.
I can't do that because I'm limited to 3 minutes, come on.
That's right. You learned from Paul. You've been watching our meetings. No,
But just a minute, Jackie Brown's here to talk about some property, but
Yes.
we didn't get it in time to warn it.
so why don't we?
We can't take action, but we can talk.
Yeah, and I don't
You don't
foresee.
have to warn an executive session ahead of time. Ann and I have talked about this.
Do we want to do this in executive session total?
I thought you did, but
What, this is an exec, I didn't think so.
Oh, well-
Mrs. Browning's here to explain what she has
You can-
and talk about her property.
you can do it either, and you can add items to your agenda. It is allowed.
I guess what would you
It's in
prefer,
the
Mrs.
agenda.
Brown?
Wherever, whatever
private
works
or-
for you guys.
In private or right here? I mean,
I think that should be
I
a
just don't
legal
want to put you
matter.
on the. I
It
don't
might
want
be a
to.
legal matter,
It might be a legal matter.
executive session, might be.
Go in
Might
executive
be.
session.
Could you make it just a general description of what you're offering the town, without getting into the legality of anything, just that you have X number of acres for sale that might be of interest to the town potentially?
He's already said it.
Hypothetically.
And then speak in an executive
You're not talking about a
session
sale
about
of land in
details?
town, are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't want to talk prices or
I
anything
guess
like
there's no
that.
executive session
No.
needed.
Oh, absolutely. Come on, if you would.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you for coming
Can I
tonight.
sit here?
Absolutely.
That's the hot seat.
Welcome.
Well, basically, I've been looking at the paper and I see everybody's looking for a space for a new town hall, and I've had a conversation with a select board member who, I have 7.6 acres right on the lake. It's right within the village area, and I would like it considered as a location.
Jackie, you have my permission to mention my name.
Okay, Bruce, yeah. You know, I really, I never really thought about it until we had our discussion, and I think it's exciting. I think it would be great to have it local. It's a beautiful location. It's right in the village.
It's contiguous to our current,
And it's, yes, to the town garage.
Yeah, we all kind of know where it is, but great, it is a wonderful location, no question.
Yeah.
right?
So I would like it, to discuss it being considered. as
When you
one of
put the
the
two together, it's about 10 acres.
correct.
Well, true,
Right.
very true.
Our proposed warning that we'll talk about later has Article 6, which is shall the legal voters of the town of St. Albans support moving town hall from its current location? I don't know with this information if that's the question that we still want to ask.
No.
I think we need to.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think this is such a positive secondary option to keeping town hall within the bay, other than spending $3 million on this building and only having maybe 10 years left with it.
I think the controversy is moving it out of the bay,
Right.
not moving it from its local,
That was
from
my,
its present location, it's moving it out of the bay.
Well, moving it out of the village. I mean, aren't we trying to get a village here?
Yes, we are.
Wouldn't that keep us
I
as a
think there's
village?
I think there's synonymous terms at this point in time. It's not defined, we haven't defined it by law.
Right.
It's just, some people use village, other people use the bay.
Right. It's all the same.
right.
Same land.
If we follow through with our plans, it would be designated a village.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
No, that's really exciting. And I really look forward to talking more about that.
So what I did, Jackie, is I passed out the information that you sent me to the rest of the board members and to the Public Works Director so he could take a look at it. And thank you for sending that. Thank you for your time, and I'm excited about it.
I am too, thank you.
Wait, do you want us to stay until we finish, or do you want a separate meeting?
I can stay, up to you guys.
Yeah, we can try to move quickly. We got through that.
We should now.
So, any more public comment? That's an exciting revelation. So, agenda item number 6. I need a motion from a board member to recess this select board meeting and to reopen as the liquor control board.
I'll make a motion to recess the select board meeting and open as the liquor control board.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so here we are with the liquor control board. We have 3 licenses for the American Legion. It's first class, third class, and then outside consumption. Price Chopper's second class license. RL Valley South, second class. RL Valley North, second class. And Pie in the Sky, first class.
Standard renewals.
Standard renewals, that's all this is.
Yeah.
So if someone would like to make a motion to
So
renew
move that we approve all those
all applications.
stores' applications.
All applications if we're
And they all need to be signed.
Yes, absolutely. We'll make sure we do that this time. I
Thank
remember
you.
last time we didn't. Okay, so all in favor? For a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, perfect. Now we need a motion to adjourn as the liquor control board and reconvene as the select board.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and reconvene as the select board.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're back. So, agenda item 7, the 2020 certificate of highway mileage, yearly thing.
No changes?
No changes.
We did not accept any new roads, any new public roads last year, so pretty straightforward.
Okay, so need somebody to
I make a motion to accept the highway mileage according to Vermont statute, anointed Title 19, Section 305, added 1985, for 80.584 miles, and of that, 27.074 miles is state highway. That leaves us with 53.51 miles.
Fair enough. Second for that motion?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we've got this here to sign also.
There's only 3 lines, but all 5 of you must sign.
Right. All right, so we're gonna move on to the town manager's report. We have a water allocation request?
We do. Boys House, applications in your packet.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Any discussion about this? Pretty routine.
I've reviewed it. I don't have problems with
No,
it. I would make a motion to approve it.
Are you making a motion?
Yes, I am.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Beautiful. I told you we would get moving eventually. Oh, here we go, the proposed FY 2021 municipal budget. I mean, let's pump the brakes real quick.
Things just slowed down again.
So as it suggests, we worked at our budget meeting last week. What you have in front of you is draft 6 of the FY 21 budget. There were copies out back. I don't know if I have enough. If you need something or you want it, we'll be putting it on our website. So in front of you, you should have that number 6. Don't know if you have any questions. It's what we discussed as a result of that budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did some thinking about after we went over your budget, and Brendan made a statement that, you know, it's a little high, and wondering if we could cut it some more. So the last couple of days I've been looking at it, and I don't really see where we can whittle this down anymore. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm ready to approve what's been presented to us. I agree with you.
Yeah, most of the increases have been healthcare.
So that was the biggest thing, was healthcare
No, Parks and Rec went up $33,000 from last year. $90,000 in the last 5 years. So we are spending money in Parks and Rec. It's well spent.
Yes, we're benefiting by
I
it.
watched those people this summer, past 2 summers out there. It's well spent.
So, to get the
Things that
question on everyone's mind,
carries. You know,
to get to the question on everybody's mind is, what does this budget potentially do to my tax rate? And from the very basic math that I'm capable of doing, I'm projecting somewhere around 3 cents. That's where we're at, and that's why, like Bruce had mentioned, I asked the board to consider making some deeper cuts. And, you know, we all have opinions, so, again, I'm thinking 3 cents, and I wanna explain that a couple years ago, you would have saw on our town meeting day warning that we asked the voters to return $300,000 of previously collected general fund balances to further reduce taxes, or whatever the article language that we usually use is. This year, it's only $100,000. It's because every year, our fixed costs, health insurance, salaries, they go up, and we've made dramatic cuts to our legal lines, consulting, engineering, anything that could be seen as an opportunity to get frivolous has been cut, to the point where our staff is about to say we're in a danger zone. I mean, they don't want to go any lower. So you'll see this year, we can only come up with about $100,000 in general fund balance to further reduce taxes. And that's drastically because there's not as much fluff money left in this budget anymore. It's really all appropriated to fix costs. And if you look at our grand list, we have about $1 billion grand list. So the math on that is $100,000 amounts to about 1 cent on the tax rate. I'm projecting about a 3 cent tax increase. 2 cents can be directly attributed to the fact that 2 to 3 years ago, and I don't have the year in mind, I want to say it was 2017, we used $300,000 of previously collected funds to reduce taxes. This year we could only do $100,000. So that gap of 200 grand, that's going to get made up somewhere, and it's going to get made up in the property tax, unfortunately. I don't think this budget is lavish. It goes a long way to provide a better compensation structure for our fire department, and it also includes $35,000 that the board appropriated last Thursday to maybe put somebody on part-time with Chief Cross at the fire department to solve maybe some potential safety issues down the road. The board, a quorum of the board, felt that Life Alert wasn't enough for our chief, and that he should have somebody there to be with him. I may have been the one arguing for Life Alert, full disclosure.
He didn't want to wear the device that says I've fallen and I can't get up.
Trust me, we asked. So
I think you should always also inform the voters that the tax rate might not increase at all if our grand list goes up.
Yeah, but we won't know that until May,
Exactly. Right? So I think
We'll see
You know one thing though, we're still, I think we're still pretty, we're pretty conscious of the money that we spend in this town.
Obviously, yeah.
And the other thing is that we're the envy of a lot of other municipalities because of our fire department and because of our DPW, the good work they do and the good people we got. You want to retain good people, you got to pay them a livable wage. And that's a bottom line.
Okay, Bill has a question.
Just looking at page 9, your total expenses, including financing back and forth, is only up $70,000.
So that figure, if you look at the budget for FY20, included $126,000 for the fire department reserve. And that figure is not included in this budget proposal because the 5-year term for the contribution to it needs to be renewed. You know how we put an article every 5 years, shall the voters, for a period of 5 years, for the reserve fund.
Capital reserve fund. Okay.
Right, so that's up, and we need to redo that article, so we didn't put that on the budget.
So
But
who's-
it's figured into my 3-cent quantification.
All right. Thank you.
Any additional questions? We'll have another budget hearing, I'm sure, so. We can dive into the weeds a little bit more, and we'll work to come up with a bit of a better presentation showing which cost sectors are pinching us, so that we can all adequately understand that.
So you're gonna go down through the articles?
Okay. So let's,
Well, first, I think you could approve this as your proposed budget for town meeting.
and you need a motion for that.
I would like.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Questions from the public? This is a lot of money, it's yours. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, we're gonna move on to the proposed March 2020 town meeting day warning, and we gotta remember that we might need to tweak the wording of Article 6 after the news from Mrs. Brown. So, March 3rd, 2020, I'm just gonna read the articles. Article 1, that's all of our elected positions, so it's to elect the following officers. Select person for a term of 3 years, select person for a term of 2 years, first constable for a term of 1 year, grand juror for a term of 1 year, town agent for a term of 1 year, and library trustee for a term of 3 years. Article 2, and this is the big money article. Shall the legal voters of the town of St. Albans authorize the select board to spend an estimated $4,663,258 for the town general expenses, of which $3,922,666 is to be raised by taxes. I'm going to repeat that last number in case anybody's making notes anywhere. $3,922,666. 3,922,666. Article 3, shall the legal voters of the town of St. Albans authorize the select board to use up to $100,000 of prior year general fund balance to reduce taxes for fiscal year 2021. That's the article I said a few years ago was $300,000. We've cut the budget, now we don't have as much left over at the end of the year. Article 4, and that's the pool one. I'm going to try to read through this without tying my tongue. Shall the town of St. Albans issue general obligation bonds in the amount of $2.75 million for the purpose of financing the construction of a community pool, pool house, air-supported dome, and associated site work, roadway construct, sidewalk construction, utility improvements, and professional services to be located at the Hardack Recreation Facility, and for the payment thereof pledge the credit of the town, in particular the revenues generated from the local option tax, contingent upon an equal contribution from the city. I think we should make that say City of St. Albans, just to be safe, but that's just a housekeeping thing. Article 5, shall the legal voters of the town of St. Albans authorize the select board to spend up to $65,000 of previously collected infrastructure development funds, local option tax revenues in parentheses, to fund the pre-development phase for a new town hall. And that's really tied to Article 6, which maybe should come first. Shall the legal voters of the town of St. Albans support moving town hall from its current location?
Isn't $65,000 a lot of money for that? if you want development dollars, should be somebody to come check the property, see where you're gonna put your retention pond, see where you're gonna put your mound system.
Well, remember what we spent on the town garage proposal, we were in the six-figure territory, and we had no commitment from the voters to allow us to use infrastructure fund dollars to pay for that.
I don't think it's ridiculous.
This is what
Yeah.
we asked a project manager, a cost
Yeah.
estimator,
Yeah.
how much money, and on January 15th, Matt Young confirmed that 65,000
$55,000.
would get us to that, he calls it the schematic design process.
How
which-
big of a building is that?
But that's still being discussed. This is, so it breaks
To
it
help us
down,
with those questions.
breaks down into 4 costs.
Yeah. But keep in mind, this is not provide construction design
No, it's not.
for the building.
No.
This is
And that's one of your larger costs.
So I'm gonna propose that Article 6 should become Article 5 and should be reworded to include some type of mention of the bay. And then I'd say that,
Look, Article 6, I have, show the legal voters of the St. Albans town support having the town hall remain in the Bay area.
fair enough.
Support having the town
Relocated
hall
from the Bay
remain
area
in the
and
Bay
either or.
area.
How about at the bay?
Huh?
At the bay, or in St. Albans Bay Village, or hamlet.
The town
In St.
village.
Albans
We're
Bay
not,
Village.
we're not a village, we're a
The town-
hamlet.
That'd be good,
In the
Paul.
area, yeah, people understand the
Right,
area.
yeah, I'm
You
just,
gotta put St. Albans Bay in it.
we have to have some kind of a,
Yeah.
and whether it's to stay here or move from here, it's a half dozen of one, 6 of the other.
If you kick it up, they're gonna kick us out again.
Move from where?
From here to either outside of the bay or in the bay, and then the 65,000 we're asking for pre-construction funds is to flesh out a proposal related to the outcome of that other article. So they'll tell us if they want us to stay here or move, and then we'll take the 65,000, generate a proposal, and be back hopefully by November, but maybe town meeting day 2021.
There has been other locations like that.
Right.
I get, my question is, does that article imply that you're going to build a new town hall and avoid any consideration of refurbishing this town hall?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
So maybe it should
It
be some,
doesn't, because it asks for relocation. It says nothing about renovation.
Right.
So that decision has been made.
so there's really 2 questions here. Do we want to stay in this building, or
Well,
yes or no? And then, do we want to stay in the bay, period, yes or no? And then it's what do we approve from there, so.
You know, the other thing
How
that
did
you
you
need
ask
to
it?
clarify,
We need to figure out what
You-
you want from this question. What exactly do we want?
We want to know-
Just a general area or a specific area?
Well, there is a certain amount of people out there who think that this building is worth renovating. So we have to ask that question if you fear everybody.
Right, so then it'd be a totally different question we're asking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess.
and that should be the first question.
I guess,
And the point is, you made a statement, you said a couple times that if we spend the money to renovate this building, it's only gonna get 8 more years. Now, there's a word for that we walk around when we're in the field. That's nonsense. If you do this building right, it won't be any different than any other buildings that have been reconstructed and rebuilt, and it'll last 100 years.
I'm just going off the needs
Just
assessment.
these cabinets, so you can change the wiring and get rid of it as you need it. But you gotta fix that.
If you did it, if you talked to Jackie Brown, and you got everything all set, wouldn't you need only one question?
No, you gotta talk to
No, there's 2, because it's whether to
resource
either,
people about cleanup.
it's
No,
about
no.
renovate
All right,
or build
let's
anew.
get back to one.
Couldn't you just say, so the
Reno-
legal voters of the town of St. Albans, not consider or shall they, leave the present town hall and go to this site and incorporate it with the old town garage?
I just don't know that we'll have all of the particulars
Well,
in place
okay,
to
I
be able
didn't
to
know
ask
that.
that.
But I think that if they vote to leave it in the town,
What's that?
in the bay, then, that's kind of.
Well, you wouldn't have to say in the bay if you actually said
I
it.
think there are too many unanswered questions, unfortunately.
Why don't,
The whole purpose.
before you go
Just one
before you go
moment.
too far on building the town hall, just ask the voters if they want to remain in the existing building or move. I mean, it's as simple as that. If you're not going to renovate, well, you're going to move somewhere, and then you can discuss whether it stays in the bay.
Yeah, but we have to get their approval again.
Yeah.
Because of the
So
money
what?
that we're using.
You're gonna have to get
It's not
approval
gonna
again
happen
anyways for.
No, no,
All right, let's
listen.
come right back, let's come right back. We're too many voices here.
At the same time.
Al,
So I would like to remind the board and let the community know that we've had multiple studies on this building and at where to put the town hall. And the studies, I believe the most recent advisory committee looked at it, and then we had two previous studies by engineers back in 5 or 10 years ago. In each case, this building could be rehabilitated, but its lasting life by engineering methods had a life expectancy of 10 years.
You get a bad
Why?
engineer then.
For multiple reasons in terms of age and, go read the report.
Yeah, you gotta read the report.
The second thing is, we've already had a study who's made a recommendation. What's the purpose of the board creating an advisory committee if they're going to constantly disregard?
well,
Forgive them.
that was the point in coming up with this article, was we created the town hall relocation committee. And then 6 months down the line, we're talking about this building still, when the committee was dubbed relocate. So it's time for the voters to give the select board a concrete direction to move. That way, we can draw a proposal for the voters to say yes or no to about either renovating or relocating and building a new town
It's
hall.
just hard to ask the voters a question without them having all this information. And I do agree with Al, there was the committee, and I'd like to follow committee recommendations, but I also have concerns if we abandon this building, we'll still own this building. Who's gonna buy a building that is out of code and needs lots of renovation?
You're gonna heat it,
It'll still be our responsibility
Well,
to
there-
maintain.
insure it.
Jessica, if we were to enter the, go along with the village designation, there's lots of money, because this is on a historical list, to renovate
We could renovate this into a community center.
community center, something.
Use that money.
If you renovate it into anything, according to what I'm being told, it's only the last 10 years. I still think that's BS. And I haven't read the reports, but I've seen many towns, cities, and local that have taken buildings that are much older than this and turned them into structures that'll last 100 years. The first in Vermont, the big one was a
Can't keep going
pavilion.
over that ground, so I just want to make
It's
a point.
expensive,
Carrie?
but we need to know what it costs.
I really just need to make this point. See, I keep getting ignored. So, we asked a project manager or a construction manager to evaluate what we needed at this stage of the process. And he basically said to me about 3 different ways last week, it doesn't matter what location you're talking about. To get to the schematic design stage, you need to spend this money. So it doesn't matter if we're doing it here, if we're doing it over near DPW, if we're doing it on, the ever maligned Smith property. Doesn't matter where we put this, we still have to get through these stages. So that's all, that's it.
Does the where include this building?
Bill, I have to say, please, wait, and I'm
All
gonna
right,
say this for
okay.
everybody in the audience, wait until I recognize you, so we don't have any
My arm
conflict.
drops off.
I mean,
I understand, I want this to be a little bit more orderly than it's the boss doing last week.
more or less, yes, because the process is getting a schematic design, getting us actually working with our project manager, 15 grand, which would result in the actual design, so space needs of 30,000, a geotech report, which if we are somewhere else, it says optional, depends on location. And fourth, there's just a $10,000 contingency in there. So he really just tried to program this so that we could plug and play this anywhere, but at least move forward. Because bottom line, somebody loves this building, not love this building, we're running out of vault space. We're pretty soon gonna have a storage container in our front yard because we're going to have to keep those land records somewhere. We can't keep taking this down the road 6 and 12 months at a time.
Yeah.
We're out of space here.
So Carrie,
It's
and
not a
people,
subjective, it's a
by
fact.
doing this design work, that'll also give us an idea of what location, help give us an idea of what we need for a location.
Where it's possible.
Right.
It'll just, It'll give us the information people desire.
He's getting tired.
I'm gonna,
For spending
Go
that money.
Bill, he's
I'm
got
gonna
to
go
take
Bill.
longer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Bill and I'm gonna ask that we keep it brief, and
Yeah,
then
it's
I'll
gonna
go
be
to Paul
very
and
brief.
then
I
the same.
think
I don't wanna see his proofs.
the question is, if you're looking at a comparison between remaining here and relocating somewhere else, and the question of relocating somewhere else, I would ignore the land issue per se. The question there is precisely what kind of a building do you need? And you can do the cost work on that. And then compare that to the cost of renovating this building to become ADA compliant and to get it a useful life of 75 or 100 years.
We,
And you have two, the way the question is being asked, there's no way I would vote in favor of it because I have no basis for comparison. That's it. That's brief enough.
I still think we need to know, because of the controversy, whether or not the public wants to see this operation removed from the bay. We gotta know that.
I'm gonna try and split this into a minute and a half each.
Oh, boy.
Okay, well, let's try to keep it
All
less
right,
than that.
when you tell somebody, the initial plan was to build a complex, that's all gone. So all we're talking about is a building with a certain amount of square feet. And we can do vault changes in here. The question to ask the guy who make the design is, what will it cost to make this building last 75 years? Not let him tell you, well, you do this, you can last 8 years. Tell him what you want. Address it. Now, the vault problem. How many years ago did we first start talking about digitizing our records?
We're doing that.
It's
Are we?
irrelevant, you have to have hard
But
copies here, it's
statute,
irrelevant.
Paul, statute tells me, or any clerk in any state of Vermont, you have to keep paper records
Yeah, you have to keep paper records, but you have to keep them here,
in the vault.
Yes.
in the vault. Okay, don't reclaim my time. How many, 25 seconds? Okay, now, I've learned this by watching television.
He's been watching
And reclaim my
the
time.
impeachment trial.
Ask the question when you go to the guy who's going to design, you want to keep this building for 75 more years. How much is it going to cost?
And we'll do that.
And this is what we need. And when you have that answer and that number, you will know whether you can afford it or you got to go. Because Jessica's right. This is the only historic building in the town, and we own it. And whether we're in it or it sits here vacant, we're going to pay for it.
We still need to know whether or not the people want to see this location moved out of the bay. We have to know that.
They got to know what the cost of moving it is, and if you still have to heat it and you still have to pay for it.
We'll have a better idea if they want it moved. We have other locations.
Now, is this going to be a binding thing or
I don't
advisory?
think we're getting any other thing.
Aaron?
I just had a clarifying question, and then I wanted to, I first want to recognize what Jessica said around giving the voters the right information to be able to make a decision about whether to stay in the bay or not, or consider other locations. So I wanted to know the question that Carrie's talking about, the $65,000 schematic, getting to that point, is that going to give us the information that we could then take to the voters in another chance to tell them, okay, here's what we've learned, and then you can make a decision as a voter about where we should be, what's the best, because I think what I'm concerned about is if we make a decision about staying in the bay, but then when we look at the options available, it ends up being the more expensive option that it limits our options of where we can be. So I think before we make a vote about where to stay, we need to know what are all the options. I think people have been saying that in various forms, and I think that we need to think about that before we ask the question of where to go.
Yeah.
This is quick. This one. I got another one after, but. Have you thought about talking to the neighbor over here,
We have,
Vincent?
we have.
I know when I talked with her the other day, she said, somebody come over and make us an offer on
Time
it.
is up.
I could solve your storage problems right there.
I yield to him.
To answer your question, what Carrie's talking about, the $65,000, is not going to give you all those answers for the public. It's not going to give you all the answers. Because it's not going to give you a total cost of construction and what it's going to cost you to build. And that's what the people are going to want to hear.
So even more reason not to limit to where we're going to go early on, I would say.
And I think if, being around this town as long as I have been, the discussion is, and the topic is, moving this business out of the bay. I don't think they're opposed to a new town hall. I don't think anybody's opposed to that. But what people are opposed to is taking what's been here forever and moving it. The people, or at least the people that I talk to, that have been calling me in the last couple of weeks and sending me emails, is that if we lose the town hall in the bay, the post office is next, you know, what goes on from there? This is our Main Street. This is what we, in my opinion, what we should be working on, just like the city did on their Main Street. This is what we got. We got a diamond in the rough here. And this is where we should be, in my opinion only, this is where we should be spending our time and money.
So the idea was to go to the voters and ask
I think we got
a clarifying question. Where do you want this renovated or future town hall to be? In the bay or outside of the bay? And from there, we were to take the $65,000 budget, generate some type of a proposal that could be taken back to the voters by November. Because at the end of the day, this town hall is a place where we come to have meetings 2 to 3 times a month, sometimes 4. It's a place we come to check land records, to pay our taxes. But there are a group of people here that work very hard for us that have to be here every day for 8 or more hours. And the working conditions here aren't quite as bad as the Department of Public Works building down on Georgia Shore. But we're approaching. I can tell you, if you want to go see a bathroom that I would not personally use, that our employees use, there's a little yellow one upstairs that might hurt your retinas if you turn the light on.
Fix it.
It's just a little pain.
And why haven't we?
We have to do
Why haven't we fixed it? If it's a problem, why don't we fix it?
We have space problems. You know, this is so far out of context of any factual information. This is as bad as Washington DC.
Now, wait a minute.
No, there is no fact, we're not talking facts, we're talking constantly myth about different things.
We're going around in circles.
So we say that there's nobody here that's from where the largest population of the town exists. This is all Bay people. We have to hear from the larger majority also.
No, I'm not in the Bay
silent
anymore.
majority.
I live up with you rich people.
Oh, good.
What if we took it off Article 6 off the ballot and we had like a map of the town up, and when people are exiting voting,
You could do it in
put a little
formal
dot
Formal poll.
where they want it on
I
the
don't
map.
really think we should. I think we should go back to what we had on the ballot and leave it as that and send it.
Take it off and put an informal
Why
poll.
don't you guys just make the decision? That's what you're
No,
elected
if we
for.
leave it on, we got an official poll from the voters, from the
Very
people.
confusing though.
Anybody
wording
that's
needs to be
concerned is gonna go and
I
vote.
kind of agree with Bill.
That's what you're elected for, make decisions.
Do you need a petition?
Well, generating a proposal that gives you a hard
I'm gone
construction.
forever.
Generating a proposal that gives you a hard construction number is a very expensive experience. And given how, not divisive, but, or controversial, but how opinionated
we
people
missed all
are
the
about
laws.
whether or not to stay or relocate from here. And because there are people on the other side of that debate that would go toe-to-toe with Mr. Larner with as many reasons as to move as he has to stay. I mean, there are a group of people here.
I can imagine people don't care where it goes, as long as it doesn't cost them extra money.
Right, well, $65,000 is not gonna
I think
get
that's the
you
majority of the
everything you need.
That's done.
Okay, that's not gonna happen.
Let's,
And the other thing is, just let me say this, is that Brendan brought up something that was a really good point. I work with space designers for IBM, Intel, you know, a lot of big companies. And the environment that people have to work in every day really does a lot to their productivity. And I think these people here have been stuck in this place for so long. And I don't even like walking upstairs, going through those 2 doors and smelling that smell coming out of the basement. I mean,
we need to do something.
we gotta do something.
And the idea is that we have to, I would like direction from the voters, one way or another.
Yes.
How we do that, I guess we're still debating it.
I think we should let it go the way it is.
My last question. Carrie, may I ask you if you would check with the manager of the city and ask them if their building's only gonna last 8 years?
If they're what?
Their building's only gonna last, their
City
improvements are only gonna last 8 years? And if they aren't, ask them how we get those people down here to look at our building and and tell us how we can do ours to last another
The
50 to
museum.
75 years.
Let's go back to the question.
Right, let's talk about we're here to talk about the warrant.
Yeah, which is
One
one
moment.
You got one
We've
quick,
got to get through this.
Yeah.
So, Article 6 currently reads, shall the legal voters of the town of St. Albans support moving town hall from its current location?
I think it's fine.
Leave it the way it is.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
so,
got-
I think we're not gonna get good information from it. I think we're gonna be discussing this.
yeah, we're gonna be
exactly the
discussing what
same
the
way.
outcome.
How would you word it, Jessica?
I don't think it's a yes or no question. If people haven't been reading the articles or following the discussion and just show up to do their civic duty and vote, they're gonna, may not even know it's in the bay, they might not know what the alternatives are. It's hard to vote on something with very little information.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you very often, Jessica, but I disagree with you on this one. I think it should remain the way it is and go to the.
I don't
We
mind
already
that.
asked when we did that survey.
The
and we
survey
got-
was done
It's fine.
2 or 3 years ago?
Last year.
Last
Next year? Was it
no,
last year?
no, no.
18, we got the results.
Well, Jessica,
Because that was a whole
let's get
different
back
project.
to
That was a
an
whole
idea that
different
Jessica
project.
brought up and
That
discussed.
survey wasn't where the paper was written
All
on.
right, let's come back here. The suggestion, as I understand it, is to put up a map of the town, and much like you do in a classroom now, or is to take, I don't know if it's a sticky note or a dot, like a sticker dot, and just, where do you want it? Put it there. And then somebody could be there all day tracking it.
That can't be inside the complex,
No.
I'm sorry, no,
That won't
that's
work.
against the
Okay, so that's
campaign
why we're
law.
talking about it.
Your question is very basic and it's straightforward.
Anything
It
on the
just says,
ballot can't.
is it gonna stay in the bay or is it gonna go somewhere else? Yes or no? And when you say stay in the bay, people are gonna think here. You're not gonna tell them, oh, we're gonna put it over on the Superfund site. We're gonna,
Super,
you know, yeah, you talked to Northeast Regional Planning.
I have,
Okay.
okay. And
Remember the tank farm?
it's never been listed as a Superfund.
No, it's not
I
a
can tell you
Superfund.
that.
That's a,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or a brown
Sorry about
field.
that. But
So please,
it's-
let's stop.
It was a tank farm. It's got- there's
Let's not
issues.
look for problems yet.
Yeah, but here's the thing. They're gonna think it's here. So does it stay in the bay or do we move it? That's a yes or no. People aren't gonna think we're gonna put it over in a town park, or we're gonna put it out, if we had the
That's a good
opportunity
idea.
up at the school.
Well, if you say
That
keep it in
could've been
the,
ours
if you
for $1.
say keep it in the bay or move it, I mean, maybe you move it over there. I mean, you're saying keep it in the bay, you could keep it in the bay, but there are other options
Oh,
in the
yeah.
bay.
Well, listen,
Yeah.
we've got a lot invested down here.
Tell them about
And
it.
there's a lot, this village center thing really is
That's
enhanced
a good point.
by having the town hall right where it is. The post office.
So I wanna come
No, I
back.
agree with you, I agree with you.
So, if you wouldn't mind, Chuck, you're here, and it's a pleasure to see you here. You and your partner have made the largest monetary investment in the Bay, private or otherwise, in how many decades? What do you think?
What I think is I would like to see some support from this town. That's what I'd like to think. And I think it's ridiculous to think that you would move the town hall out of the bay. I mean, this is the downtown. And the other thing is, well, I've done a lot of renovations, whether it's commercial buildings or residential buildings. And when you take a building and you're locked into what these four walls are, and you try to renovate, this is extremely expensive. For one thing, not only are you building, but you're tearing out. You're basically doing two things at once. To rip this apart, to insulate it, bring you up to modern specifications is a real expensive thing to do.
It's like opening Pandora's box.
And you're stuck in these walls. I mean, you've got to think about voting day, you've got to think about, all your, everything you've got that goes into a town, you've got to get into this building. And when you look at how this thing is all cut up, and this is really kind of a small building. There's definitely a better design that would probably cost you a lot less money if you built a new building somewhere else.
But it should be
But
in the Bay.
it still should be in the bay.
I agree.
Potentially on.
So you get 2 votes, Chuck.
Yeah, hey, whatever.
I know what more beautiful place could be located than on our property over at DPW, along working with Jackie, on the bay.
The problem with this town is we're stuck in 1958.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem with this
That was a
town.
pretty good year. I
You've
was in
got-
high school.
Whatever, Bill.
I wasn't born.
The problem is we are not moving forward. Every other town is building bike paths, recreation, which brings good people to your town. All I hear is people move here because they can buy a cheap house. What a horrible reason to move to a town. I'd like to live in Chittenden County, but I can't afford it, so I moved to St. Albans. And then you hear all the crime and everything else that goes along with it. I mean, I think what the city has done up there, they should be commended. They've done a great job up there. It's beautiful up there. You can go through that city, you can be proud of what they have. On the other hand, I moved here 18 years ago, and not one thing has changed in this bay. Nothing. Nothing has changed in this bay.
I gotta say something. 18 years ago, I ran into Chuck, and Chuck had a dream of, a vision of putting a marina here. And Chuck's the only person that I know of that has brought his dreams to reality in this bay.
And you know something? It's a huge, huge expense to do what we've done down there. But you know something? It's worth it. This town is worth it. We have the best view. I lived in Mallett's Bay my whole life. We have the views, we have the sunsets. It's a beautiful bay. It only gets better every year. But you know something? You need support from this town. You need some support from this community. You know, this is when if people have wanted to vote in the past, they've had to go to Mallett's Bay. They got to go to the islands. They got to drive an hour away. I mean, it's like having your shopping or anything else. I mean, it's really it hasn't changed, and we're stuck.
Yeah. Chuck, I commend you for everything you've done.
It's really too bad. I mean, you like to see things change. There's a lot of things I'd like to do, but you know something? I got to get some support before I can do it.
Right.
You know?
No, I appreciate your point. And I think it was a little sobering to a couple of us. We are stuck. We've been stuck for decades. And it's been at the expense of a lot of people, including our employees and people who make private investments in the area. So we need to figure out.
Have at it.
But I don't think it's worded right.
It's not.
We need to talk, just moving town hall from its current location isn't enough.
Location is here, so you gotta say bay. You have
From
to
its
say
current bay location?
Right.
There you go.
From its
Yeah,
current
that
bay
sounds
location.
They're not current bay location. I mean, that makes it sound like it's here.
From a
Keep it
location
in the bay.
in the bay.
In the bay.
You can fub it a little.
Having it remain in the bay
That's right.
area.
Yeah.
What about from a bay location?
Or
Support having it in the bay area.
what if,
Whatever you
okay,
said.
let's
No,
call
what
it,
you said was.
how about shall, and I don't know, I might be wrong here, but I've got an idea and I'm gonna say it out loud. I shouldn't bet it, but shall the legal voters of the town of St. Albans support moving town hall from its current location to a different location within St. Albans Bay?
Nope.
I don't know.
Don't say move, don't put move in, don't.
Should it remain,
Should it remain in the bay area?
Bay area.
Don't put it down as this
Okay,
location
then
or
that,
anything.
so it comes
Bay
back and
area.
it says, yes.
Okay, it remains
Stay in
in
the
the
Bay Area, so now
area.
you can look at all your area. You can look at all your prospects here.
Then you
Where
spend
wanna
money.
do it. Whether it's here, whether it's over there, whether it's over there, it's in the Bay Area.
Yes.
So we come up with maybe 2 proposals.
I got
within the bay.
one small thing. Instead of shall thee, say do thee or do you.
Support.
Support.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, do. That's-
Do the voters of this
It's a
town support?
non-binding vote.
I like that, do. So I just don't wanna go through the expense of drumming up 2 proposals, that's all. And 65 grand's gonna cover us once, and it's not even gonna get us to the point where we know what our construction numbers are.
I think we're there, Brendan.
Wait, just go, how did you read Article 6?
Don't get me going on that 65 grand.
Well, how do
Do the legal members of the town of St. Albans support
moving town hall from the bay, I mean.
from a bay location?
Keeping it down.
No,
Do the
you
town-
support leaving it in the bay. Make it a positive question.
The question's gotta be positive, not negative.
Can't do a negative question.
You know, if it doesn't upset you too much, Brian, it's all right if I leave.
Go ahead.
Good night, thanks very much. Keep it up. Right, bye-bye.
Have a good night, Bill.
Bye, Bill.
The legal voters of the town of St. Albans. No, I didn't say that. Do the
So the legal voters of the town of St. Albans support having the town hall remain in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's more on a positive side.
Yep.
Did you write it? Did you write it down?
No, but
No,
I think
but-
Jen
I
did,
got
so
it.
just pause. Maybe you can reread it.
Do the
Jen's
legal
got it.
voters of the town of St. Albans support having the town hall remain in the Bay Area?
Great.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay.
Done and done.
Take it to the
And
press.
so that one should be number 5, and number 6 is gonna remain
Is
as
that what was said?
it was written.
So in the future, does every article have to be, when
Yes
you're
or no?
asking, it has to be?
It
So you
does.
can't give 2
You
locations and
cannot
then
give
pick
multiple
between-
choice, that's correct.
No.
So even if it's only 2?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, move on.
What's going on?
Alright, so, Article 7, shall the legal voters of the town of St. Albans authorize the select board to continue to fund $125,000 for the fire department reserve fund annually? Yes.
Yeah.
Article 8, shall the legal voters authorize the select board to purchase a new medium-duty plow truck for the Department of Public Works not to exceed $140,000 using previously collected Department of Public Works reserve funds? And that's all we have, those 8 articles.
Scratch that one?
I was thinking you should put it at the top of the list, that way if people get pissed off, they've already said yes to me. Just saying.
No, we put you, it's
Most of
okay.
us like our plow trucks.
It's
so-
okay, we put you right after the fire department, so people will be happy again.
That's all right.
You can stay where you are.
You can put Bob second and everything else below us.
Could we put used military vehicles?
The city did that one time.
Just a quick one back on 4.
Huh?
4.
How's that worded?
Oh, it was written by Paul Giuliani, the bond attorney.
Right, and it's supposed to be almost identical to the same, and I think it's the same article number
It is.
as what the city
Yeah.
told.
Oh,
I'll read it one more time because it is
Yeah.
kind of a tongue twister. Shall the town of St. Albans issue general obligation bonds in the amount of $2.75 million for the purpose of financing the construction of a community pool, pool house, air-supported dome, and associated site work, roadway construct, sidewalk construction, utility improvements, and professional services to be located at the Hardak Recreation Facility, and for the payment thereof pledge the credit of the town, in particular the revenue generated from the local option tax, contingent upon an equal contribution from the city.
okay. My question on that is, the city is asking for the $2.75 million plus $1.5 million for sidewalks.
And,
Right here, it's in print in the paper.
yeah,
That's
There it
something
is.
yeah,
What's
it's
your
That's Side
question?
Street or
yeah, it's just a
Down
second,
the
it's
street.
another totally different project that they're.
Well, we're
they're
supposed to be
voters-
paying half.
What's that?
No, it's a different
It's totally
sidewalk in a
different.
different location, has
It's
nothing
not-
to do with
it's not
our.
You're in the hole under sidewalk money.
Okay,
Yeah, they're just not connected, but. Okay, so we've got a warning in front of us, we've made some changes. I think that
That's why they're passing
Article
the
6
municipal
about
option tax.
moving town hall
So they can
should be Article 5, and then voters should,
Because they
you
can't
should
tax the
decide whether you
taxpayer.
want to remain in the bay or not, and then
Okay,
decide whether or
double
not you want to give us money to draft a proposal or not, that's what I'm thinking.
They can draft it anyway, the state lets
Order,
it.
I think order matters in that case, but
No, it's for something
Gotta have one
else.
before the other.
does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so, would anybody like to make a motion to accept this warning as amended? Is that acceptable too?
Yes, absolutely.
I just
Go
have
ahead,
one
yeah.
other question. Is it possible to put out a glossary for first-time voters or to explain what the local option tax, what a first constable does? When people show up to vote, they know, like the local option tax, where that money is coming from.
Well, that's 2 separate questions. We can do that, and that's one of the reasons I do like a budget justification spreadsheet, but you can't put that in where they're voting.
Yeah.
Because that's undue
Can't be in the
influence.
building
So we
at
can
all.
put that out.
We're
We
treated
put
the
it-
same as a
You can put
candidate.
it on your website, though, right?
We can put it on our website, we put it in the town report, but we can't, and Facebook, we kind of blast it out
When do you
there.
do that?
We can post something like that, I mean, boost that post too, but we just can't hand it to somebody right before they vote.
Okay.
And there is a list of acronyms at the back of our budget, which we'll have to make sure we do again, because someone has asked for that.
Oh, yeah, acronyms can be,
They can be off, like, we know what NEMRIC is.
Hey, Paul,
and
your
some other
25
things, but
seconds
it
were
gets
up a long time ago.
confusing. And then sometimes you can't even make that context
Another
with the
question.
question.
Another question. I'll observe it.
Okay.
The other question that comes up again, and just made me think about it. There are a number of legal specifications for town jobs that really don't exist anymore, like first constable. I guess the only thing he can really do is arrest a sheriff. That's the only job.
Yeah,
he
there's
can
not a
do.
whole lot.
No, so other towns have eliminated those positions from their slate of officers. Any consideration being given to that at all?
So let me say this. I've been thinking a lot about that and a few other areas. Like I would like to, I guess I'd like to wait through this town meeting day, and then I was going to propose creating a charter committee. I think we need to have a new committee sit down and draft a charter that makes sense for St. Albans Town in today. There are issues that have come up in the past, such as should the clerk be elected for a term of 3 years or appointed by the select board? I feel that the independence of that office is important, but there's people that disagree with me, so there's discussions that should be had. I think we could benefit from some charter changes, and I think that could be worked in as eliminating unfilled positions that don't really carry any weight in statute.
We have eliminated some that we know. VLCT said we could, but some of these are, they told us we're still required to put on the ballot.
Yeah, we eliminated the fence inspector.
Weigher of coal,
Tree inspector.
yeah, those things.
The tree warden,
That was a
Tree warden.
thing. Yeah, so we can ask again, but without a charter change, I don't know that we can eliminate some of those unnecessary ones.
So, does anybody want to make a motion to accept this as amended?
Can we go home quickly if we do?
Quickly enough, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll move that we accept the warning as amended.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there we go. Just set the ballot. That's Department of Public Works update.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna give a real brief summary on that, I know it's late. For those that aren't actively watching our meetings or noticing what's going on, our Department of Public Works garage is substantially complete. Alan took basically the turnkey, took the key, and we're going to begin moving there. Well, this week, actually, we've already started moving there, which is really exciting.
Punch list done?
I didn't say that
Okay.
yet. But they're working on it, a lot of
Okay.
things are done. Some of them are dependent upon spring
A
and.
lot of it doesn't stop you from moving in.
Right, right. So I just wanted to let you know, that's pretty exciting for us, and you'll see more activity over there now. And we came in, Matt will give us a full report soon, but we came in within budget, so we're on time, within budget, and can't say enough about our local partners, you know, Connor Contracting and everyone, they hired local whenever they could, so I feel really good about, we should feel really good about the project we just completed. That'll be a home for DPW for decades.
Well, you know, being used to working larger construction projects, I think that one went pretty darn good.
Did.
It did, and I took a tour through it myself, and that was one
Phenomenal.
sweet building.
It's phenomenal. It's the first building, publicly owned building that will be able to be proud of its current condition in a long time. But so let's move on to schedule. We have meetings Monday, February 3rd and Tuesday, February 18th. We also may have a public hearing, we should have a public hearing with the city on the pool at some point.
In February.
We're gonna set a date. Al?
Don't we by law have to have a meeting before town meeting?
It'd be the Monday before.
Right.
The first Monday in March.
So that means might also go on the schedule of March 1st.
Right.
March 2nd.
Second.
That's our informational meeting.
I just have an easy question. Where are the meetings warranted? Where can people find the meetings when they're posted?
So
Post
website?
office, right.
So our website, we do post it often on Facebook, but legally we have to post it in 3 places in town, and I don't do that, Jen does it. So where are those 3 places? I don't wanna
Out
say
front
it
of the
wrong.
building, the post office in Collins Pearly, and our website.
So your
and the
website does
newspaper
have
and
it?
the TV. Mhm.
It's not on the Facebook page, but it's on
Correct.
your webpage.
Yep.
We
Yeah,
post
right
a
at the
lot
top.
of, a lot of just general
It is
information on
right at the top.
Facebook.
So, my report, I do have one thing, and it's concerning to me, and I want to talk about it very briefly. There have been some off-the-wall flyers that have been being distributed in the city on public property for the last couple of months. And I have it on good accord that happened in the Bay recently. Anti-Semitic tone, and I would like the town manager to discuss this further with the police chief. I'd bring an example, but I couldn't bear myself to allow my printer to print it. It's okay to not like and or hate Jews, and that's one of them. Hitler wasn't wrong was another one. If whoever's putting them up wanted a public reaction, you can have it right now. Knock it off. There are people that we have day-to-day interactions with that we don't even know are Jewish. We can't look at this the same way. I can't look at it as a Catholic the same way as somebody who's Jewish looks at a sign like that. If somebody put up a sign that said Catholics are bad, we don't look at that the same. That would be my interpretation. We don't look at that the same as a Jewish person might look at a flyer like this. I don't know what our rights are as the town. I don't know that we can instruct the police chief to do anything, but the only thing that I'm not willing to do about this is nothing. It's happened in Taylor Park. I kept my mouth shut because it's not in our borders, but when it happens in the Bay, on our main street, that's a problem for me. My best friend's wife is Jewish. His son is Jewish. That's not right. St. Albans isn't a home for a place like this.
My grandfather was Jewish, and I take offense to that.
It's wrong. And if the person who's been putting these flyers up reads about this in the paper or sees our video online, get help. You're not mentally well. If you're not willing to recognize that, put your house on the market or end your lease on your apartment and leave town. We're not a hateful community. That said, I'm going to shut my mouth and move on to other business. And I think we need to...
I agree with you 100%, and I think, given that the Holocaust is now some 75 years since, I think we need to ask the museum and the library to maybe have a special month on what the meaning of the Holocaust is and what has happened to the people of minorities. Bear in mind, in Dachau, they had half the population was Jewish, the other half was non-Jewish. When you get towards a dictatorship, anybody, if you're a hate group, you get into the concentration camp, but you also, the dissidents get into the concentration camp. And Dachau was the place where they experimented with the gas chambers and also with the trucks to euthanize the people who had disabilities. It can happen to any society. It happened in Africa, it happened in Asia. We're not immune only by the fact that we have to keep our eyesight on the issues and also our commitment to the values of human life. And so I support Brendan, and I would ask that the library and the museum think about having a program to remind the people or to let us all learn again what happened at the Dachau and Auschwitz, etc.
As a trustee for the museum with Mrs. Liner, I can tell you we heard you loud and clear.
Yeah.
I think the town is becoming more aware of it too, because it's noticed, I don't know if it's the first year, maybe it's the first year I just noticed it, but they had the menorah in the city park this year during the holidays.
I mean, we're an inclusive community. We live in Vermont, for God's sake. Knock it off. I mean, it's not like this is a totally different thing than flying a Confederate flag on your doorstep or a MAGA flag. It's not making a political statement. When you go on public property and leave flyers that say it's okay to hate a group of people,
that's just hate.
Yeah, it's not going to happen here. So anything we can do to stop it, I'm all for it. If we can't do anything, at least we talk about it.
Okay, I got some other news if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, we all get the weekly legislative report, and I guess they're finally taking notice to the vacancies that we have in our volunteer fire departments throughout the state. I know a lot of them are suffering right now, because I noticed in what they've got for a summary of new bills, okay, is, for instance, H737 would allow municipalities to devise a local property tax exemption for emergency medical personnel, first aid responders, and active volunteer firemen.
Oh, so we could exempt our municipal property taxes from those folks if we adopted that in the
If
future.
we adopted it. And that right
Or a
now
portion
is
of
in the House of Ways and Means, right now.
It's in,
And the other good thing that they're doing is that they would direct the Agency of Education to provide post-secondary career technical education courses at regional technical centers for the Fireman 1 course and Emergency Medical Response certification through the dual education program. I mean, I think those are all pretty good things. Those are things I've never seen before.
They're doing that at BFA now, currently.
Are they?
Yeah.
I just think,
Northwest Tech.
and the other thing
Antoniac
they're
stuff?
doing is there's a bill in now to have new residential construction inspected by the state fire marshal before they can be populated.
Residential?
Residential.
They don't go anywhere. I
doubt
yeah. So,
And they're gonna be, and they're also, good thing we're moving in, we're thinking about new buildings because they're also requiring energy audits for all buildings and all buildings owned by, or owned or operated by organizations that receive state funding. So, come on down.
yeah, no,
We
we
need more
appreciate
fire
you paying
inspectors.
attention to that.
Yeah.
Bringing it
I
up.
just, I look at them and I just,
No, those,
let me
that,
throw them aside, but this
being
is
able
good
to,
stuff.
being able to provide a municipal property tax exemption, even a portion thereof,
Oh, man, that's huge.
we do it, yeah.
That's huge.
40%, I think.
Now, all we gotta do is stay in touch with our local representatives and make sure it works.
Right.
It passes.
So I just got one quick one. Every year we have what's on our town cover report. For the last 8 years, it's been pictures of our bay, which I feel great about. It really shows our bay up. What do we have in this year?
I was proposing to do a new
Or to let
picture of
the-
our DPW garage from a drone. Our manager said he would take a picture of it.
Nice.
That would be good.
Nice.
When do you want that right up? You want it-
Tomorrow, by Friday.
All right, I can do that. All right, so, do we want to talk about dedications in the town report? There's so many people who passed away this year that are deserving of it.
So
I don't
when's
think
the
we can
ribbon
pick.
cutting ceremony?
Oh, we're not sure yet. We wanted to get the punch list done and
Too sensitive, I wouldn't.
Yeah, no, there's just so many people. So if you see the town report this year and notice that it doesn't have a dedication,
we don't always do it.
No, we
and it's out of respect to the fact that there are so many people that are deserving of it, we would have probably literally had to done like 4. So,
I think we need some more discussion on that too. We need to come up with I don't want to call it a pre-qualification, but criteria. And I'd like to see people sponsor people, to hear from other people outside of this
board.
This board.
For the honor wall?
Yeah, for the honor wall,
Okay.
yeah.
Because there are many people who do things for the nonprofits or.
Absolutely, there's people who've done some fantastic things that have never been in any office.
I don't wanna seem like a third grader or anything like that, but town garage has been on that town report cover a couple of times now. Fire department's only been once.
Next time you get a new truck, I put it on the front.
Hey,
Bob.
provide us with a picture of the new Quint if you get it in time.
Wind it up.
Bobby?
Hey, we can compromise, you can put the fire truck in front of the garage. Or the
Why don't you
fire
get the
pole.
fire truck and put it near the wash bay near the filling station? We'll take a picture while that's in progress. Inclusiveness.
I'm sorry for taking up more time.
Hey, no, I don't, anything that makes me laugh, you're allowed. So, we need to, have somebody read another tongue twister of a motion to go into executive session for a legal and contractual matter and to invite the town manager and Mrs.
I
Brown.
think you have a copy of that motion.
I do.
Somebody should share, just share
Hold
it.
on, it's
I
on.
didn't put it in the red pen.
You did?
Chuck, what is it?
I don't think I.
We all.